are happy to have Micah Gaudet, and I'll say a little bit more about him here after everybody gets a chance to get in and say hello. Krista, we are starting this webinar is on AI for community services, and we are starting at SGR to use more and more things with AI. You and I have talked about videos we're doing. What's something that you're looking forward to hearing about today?
Gosh, every time Micah talks, I learn so much from him. So I don't know that I'm coming in with any preconceived notions, but I am really excited to learn. I love, he put out a LinkedIn recently, a LinkedIn post or article, and it had kind of a breakdown of how to use the different AI tools. And to me, like that is so helpful because sometimes it's like analysis paralysis, or is that the right saying? I think,
Yeah.
where like I can't figure out, I know I want to do something and I know AI is probably a good solution, but there's so many tools out there. It's hard to even decipher which one to use. Plus it's fun just to play with them. So then I get sucked into this black hole of, playing around with AI tools. So I thought that was really helpful for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love is you can get going with AI and then you figure out, oh, I could use it for this as well.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, Micah, we are so glad to have you. Micah is the assistant city manager in Maricopa, Arizona, and has kind of become I'm going to say, self-taught expert on AI and local government. He's published a book about it. He's speaking in various places, and we're privileged to have him every month for one of our Wednesday webinars to talk about a different way that AI applies. And we've done public safety, we've done for city managers, and today we're talking about community services. And I'm really excited to hear this, Micah, because I think there's just so many applications here, and I'm anxious to hear you talk about them. So thanks for being with us as always, and we want to turn things over to you and let you get started.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Chris, as well too for setting this up again. And excited to be here with everyone on this call, and those of you who are going to watch this maybe later down the road. Welcome as well to you all. Today, we're talking about AI for community services. In the quote unquote green room before the webinar began, we were briefly talking about how community services really is different in different cities. And so what I want to do is kind of provide a baseline for how I'm defining community services. You might define that different in your city, but hopefully we can provide some resources and some ways to approach how AI can be integrated and how AI can be a force multiplier for your community services in your city and what makes sense for you guys. So with that being said, let's go here. And the next thing I want to talk next about is, okay, what's AI for community services, right? Here's what I'm defining it just for the sake of this conversation. This is not the book written on what community services is. This is just helpful for us to have a baseline for what I'm talking about. And so when I talk about community services, I'm focusing on housing. I'm focusing on libraries, focusing on the events and activities that we do, sometimes in collaboration with libraries, with park and recreation departments, with cultural affairs. And then also some of the other entities too that we talk through. And sometimes this is done by a city. Sometimes this is done by nonprofits with support of the city. It just depends on how each organization, each municipality organizes things. And those are things like senior groups, senior centers, veterans groups, boys and girls clubs, kids clubs, things like that. So these are the different things that really bring community together, and the different services and resources that municipalities often provide either directly to the community or in support to those nonprofit groups that handle this or that provide those services and resources for the residents. So before we get into it, and Chris had talked about this a little bit, AI can be really overwhelming, right? So it's important to know, okay, what are the merits and limits of AI? I was trying to do my best to alliterate this, trying to channel my preacher kid upbringing here with alliteration. The best I could do was rhyming merit and limits. But we can look at this. Okay, AI is great for a couple things. It's great for creating content. It's great for analyzing data. And there's an asterisk by data to note that you have to have good data to analyze, the whole phrase of garbage in, garbage out. So making sure that we have good data and also making sure that we own the data is really important as well. That way we have control over what's being produced. We know what it is, and that we retain control over that data. And then we're not putting data into these open source platforms that maybe we don't want to put in proprietary information. We don't want to put in HIPAA information. We don't want to put in PHI. We don't want to put in criminal justice information. If there's other proprietary information that you have, maybe you're building a budget, but it's not published yet. I wouldn't necessarily put that in without doing a lot of work to anonymize that data. So being very careful the data we put in, but it's still very helpful for analyzing data. Luckily for us in the public sector, the vast majority of our data is open source and publicly available. In fact, all the examples that we'll go through today are all things that you can do right now. It's not going to compromise your data in any shape or form. It's a lot you can do with it. It's also good at generating a response, right? AI is designed to give a response to something. It's not always the most accurate response. Those were things where subject matter experts and domain expertise come into play to make sure that we're double checking the work. In the same way, I'm not just going to go onto a web browser like Google and just take the first thing I get off the page, the first couple of responses. I'm going to do some of my own due diligence to verify the information's correct and accurate. The same thing with AI as well. We want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and knowing that, again, we own the data, we own the response, and so we have to be responsible for that. There's a couple of things that AI struggles with, and some of the limits of AI is AI doesn't necessarily know what the right decision is. And so if you come to AI and are looking into it as kind of a crystal ball, or if you remember those little games you played at the fair of, read your fortune kind of thing, that's not what AI is going to do. AI is not there to give you the right decision. AI can help us evaluate and think through decisions on a deeper level. That way we can make the right decision, but we're the decision makers, not AI. Another thing too is AI struggles with creating meaningful relationships. And so as we talk about community services and whatnot, all this is really coming down to relationship building, right? We want that community feel. We want the neighborhood feel. We want cities and towns where people know each other and have friendships and have community. AI cannot build community for us, right? We need to be able to go out there and do that. So this is something where, as we talk about community services, I want to make sure we know that AI is not going to replace the need for community services. It's simply what I like to call a force multiplier. It's something that augments what we're already doing in community services and hopefully provide more opportunities to creating and building an environment in our cities where meaningful relationships and meaningful connections are happening, and to build a really strong and cohesive community. A couple things that, as we get started in some examples, kind of the fun part of the webinar here, a couple key tips that I think are really important. These are some things that I've learned. As Mike talked about, I've done a lot of research and a lot of picking people's brains and talking to people, watching different YouTube videos and things like that to learn how to use AI better. And here's some tips that I find very helpful, especially when first starting out. And the first one is just to talk to it as if it's a human. So just like if Mike and I were on a phone talking to each other, or if Chris and I were talking to each other, I'm going to talk to AI in the same kind of manner. Other thing too is you want to be very clear on what you want it to do. So when you give a prompt, we want to make sure we're clear. Okay, what's my desired outcome from this conversation? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want the AI model to produce for me? Other thing too is, again, we talked about this a little bit in the limits of AI, is remember that it's designed to give a response. If you put something in there, it's going to give a response, but we have to determine if it's the right response. And so one of the ways that I do this is I use negative and positive prompts. So if I'm evaluating something, say I have a business case, or I have something that I want to do some research on and evaluate this is the right decision, I'll ask AI to give me the pros and cons. I'll say, tell me everything, or tell me 5 things that could go right in the next 2 years if we go this direction. And then I also say, okay, now tell me 5 things that could go wrong if we go this direction. And I'm able to see both sides. Maybe there's something I missed. Maybe there's a positive I missed. Maybe there's a negative I missed. Then I can look at that and evaluate better what the right decision is, and use it as part of my decision-making matrix not necessarily as the end all be all decision maker. The final thing too, and I know there's a lot of talk about prompting, prompt engineering, as just a collective sigh of relief to everyone who may be just getting started and seeing all this discussion on prompting. Don't chase the perfect prompt, right? We can get really caught up in, is this the right prompt? Is it not the right prompt? I wouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about that or fretting about that. Don't chase it. You're going to know as you interact with the different models, as you act with different AI systems, you're going to see the results you get. If you like the results you're getting, then your prompt's great. If you don't like the results you're getting, keep trying something different, right? But don't try to craft necessarily the perfect prompt. Just do your best. And again, talk to it like it's a human being. So with that being said, I'm going to stop this screen share and I'm going to go over to ChatGPT here. And let's have some fun and play around with some stuff here and hopefully see what we can do. So I'm going to grab a new page here. So ChatGPT, just by way of introduction here to ChatGPT came out with a new feature called 4.0 or 4 Omni. This is also available free to everyone. There's some limits if you're not under a paid version of it. There's some limits in how many prompts you can do within a 3-hour window. Last time I was playing with it, it was about 3 prompts for the hour, and then it would shut you off and bring you back down to the 3.5 model. But under this 4 Omni model, you can see here, I have the ability to upload documents. I have the ability to do image generation or export data as well too. So to get started, again, we're talking about community services, talking about things like that. Let's go ahead. One of the most important aspects of community services in a lot of our cities and towns and counties is public libraries. So let's say I am a public library director for the city of Dublin, Ohio. I want to create a survey for our patrons to determine summer activities for kids at the library. So summertime here, in Arizona, a lot of our schools just got out of a school year. So now we're in the summertime, and I know that in Arizona, it's hot outside, like a lot of places. And so libraries are great opportunities to get your kid out of the house and go and be in a cool air conditioned spot, but still be learning and still, still learning and still reading books here. So we can see here, it created a quick survey for us. We'll take a look at this here. And so we can look at this and says, okay, how often do you visit the Dublin Public Library? What are the ages of your children? What type of activities would you like to see at the library this summer? What days of the week are most convenient for you to attend library activities? What times of day are the most convenient? Do you prefer in-person, virtual, hybrid, or both, or something like that? And then are there any other specific themes or topics you'd like the library to explore at summer activities? How did you hear about our library's summer activities? Any additional comments? What we can do here, we can actually edit and modify these things here. So what I want to do here, I'm going to highlight this. It creates this little quotation mark here. And in here, I'm going to say, I also want a question on whether they attended last year's summer activities. So here we go. It's going to revise that, and it's going to give us another question here too. So this way, again, we are able to, we can modify this survey. We can put this out. Maybe we could put this on a website somewhere, or we could print these different questions out as a survey here. And so to do that, let's say, okay, we like the survey. This is pretty good. Let's download this as a PDF. It's going to analyze things. It's going to get this PDF going here, and then it's going to give me a PDF that I could download. Now, you can also do this in a Word document as well. In fact, I would recommend exporting it or downloading it first as a Word document, because then what I would do is I would go through just with a fine-tooth comb, make sure it's accurate, make sure there's no spell check errors, make sure everything is right there in terms of how I want that that survey to look and how I want that to be displayed. And then I would go ahead and export it from Word into PDF to send it out that way. This is how I would do it. Everyone's different. How you want to go about doing that is up to you and your staff and what makes sense to your city. So it's going to analyze things here. It's taking a little bit of time, but should be here done shortly. But again, you can see just what the value of these surveys would be. And you think, okay, we could do a survey for a library. You could do the same thing with maybe you're in a public housing authority and you want a survey on your community facility in your public and that kind of thing. Or even with senior centers, or say you're starting a new program for your seniors and you want to know, okay, what do the seniors want to see in this new program? So we can click this right here. It'll start download. Click here, and here is our summer library activity or library summer activity survey, all right here that we created here on ChatGPT. So, and again, you can see, so if I go down here, you can see that some of the words at the bottom kind of cut off here, right? See that they're kind of cut off. Again, that's why I would probably have done it in a Word document first if I was publishing this or do something specific with it. For the sake of this demonstration, this discussion, we can speed the time that way. Another thing we can do too is talk about libraries. Libraries are great again for these different activities that we have throughout the city and through, just being involved in creating community. So one thing we can do here is I'm going to upload an image from my computer, and let me grab this here. So this right here is a Google screenshot of the Hilliard, Ohio library, just the outside of it. And so I'm going to say, I am a library events director. I want to create an event for kids and families at the library, hosted outside in the red outlined area. There's a little bit of a kind of a retention area, an open space there in front of the library. I thought might be cool to have an event there. And so I outlined it in red. That way the system knows what I'm talking about here. So let's say, help me create an event for that space that can be held in the summertime, 2 days a week for a month. And you can see that image now. You can see what that is. Again, it is simply just a Google screenshot image of the Hilliard Public Library there, the Columbus Metropolitan Library at the city of Hilliard. So here's the event name. Here's an event description. Here's a schedule. We got different themes and activities to talk about nature explorers, maybe some scavenger hunts, story time with a nature twist. We could do crafts with nature, a guided nature walk, some chalk art there, fitness and fun. So here we have a bunch of different cool activities that we could do to help this out. So it even talks about the different supplies we might need. So let's take a look at this, and maybe we want to modify or take a look at this more deeply. So space setup, ensure the outlined area is clean and safe for children, set up tents or canopies for shade, arrange seating for parents and caregivers, provide water stations and rest areas. And let's go like here. We're going to copy this again right here. And let's ask it, where should we put the water stations and rest areas? So it's going to suggest some places near the entrance to the outlined area, activity corners, some rest area shaded spots, identify naturally shaded areas such as under trees. Essential location is also good near play areas. So here we go. It's going to talk of the different stations here or whatnot. And let's also talk about this too. Let's ask it, if we expect about 20 to 30 people per event, how much staff should we devote to this? That's another important part too, to do these events, but it takes time, it takes resources, it takes staff time. And so as we're evaluating, okay, is this the right thing for us to do? that can also be important too. So here's a staffing plan that we could have here, an event coordinator, 45 activity leaders, maybe 2 to 3 support staff, 3 to 4 volunteers. And here we go. We can get a breakdown of all this different things here based on the event here. And we can do one more thing. We'll do one more after this as well too, to show we went from just a basic, hey, how can we do this, to now we have events planned, we have an activity schedule, we know what our staffing model might need to look like. And so now let's do this. Let's create a flyer for this event that we can post at the library and on our social sites. Okay, just going to do that here. So here's a little flyer there. Pretty cool, right? Really easy here. And let's do this here with the flyer. Let's say, let's make this a poster and create an image for the poster. Again, you may or may not want to use an AI generated image for this kind of thing. I tend to really like and enjoy using images from, if it's allowable to use images of real people doing things, right? Especially with stuff like this with building community. I think that's really important. But here we go, right? Here's summer fun days at the library. Sometimes ChatGPT has trouble with spelling for whatever reason, so you can see it misspelled Hilliard. But you get the basic idea of it, right? It's cool, really easy. Now, this is a great thing I could take into, say, a Canva or something like that, but it gives me an idea of what I want it to look like, and then I can modify it. I say, okay, you know what? I like that picture. It's very fun. It's very inviting. I might want to modify a few things, or I'll replace the picture with something that is an image of our community doing something together, but I like the color scheme. I like how the summer fun days logo looks at the library, like the sun in the background. I just like the look of it. Again, this is up to you how you want to do things. If you want to create your own, that's awesome too. But it just gives you some ideas and options, and hopefully unlocks a little bit of creativity to be able to say, okay, now we went from, can I do this at the library? I have an idea of this open space here. What do I do with it? How can I use this open space to, now we have a event schedule. Now we have a staffing plan. Now we have a flyer. And now we have an idea for a poster that we can go through. We did that in about, what was this? About 2-3 minutes, wherever, if anyone was counting there. So really quick, really easy things we can do that I think are really wonderful, wonderful things. Let's switch gears a little bit here, and let's start talking about other senior or other community events, right? So senior centers are extremely important for community events here. I'm going to close off this tab over here, and let's go over to a site that I am really, really enjoying called Perplexity AI. Perplexity AI is kind of I like to think of it as an AI enhanced web browser. So what we can do here is, a lot of our cultural affairs and community services efforts, a lot of them are sometimes grant dependent. And so we want to find some grants that maybe could help us with providing additional services for our senior center. So let's say grants for municipal senior centers in the amounts of $20,000 to $30,000. Okay, and it's going to search this and see what we find here. Let's see what kind of information we can find here on grants for senior centers. So there's a bunch of other grants. I'm sure those of you who are working in this space know much more about this than I will ever know. But we have a couple things here. So here's the AARP Community Challenge Grant. There's an AmeriCorps Senior Grants, some CDBG grants, Meals on Wheels America grants, Retirement Search Foundation. What we can do here is we can actually click on these little links here. And here is the grant opportunity here. So it's going through, maybe learn some things about the grant here, what they can do. And let's see here if there's anything about what the requirements are for this. So here's Meals on Wheels America. Let's click on here. And let's see if we can't find a grant here on the Meals on Wheels for America, right? Here's a bunch of stuff here. Meals on Wheels America Meeting Unmet Needs Grants, Meals on Wheels America Social Connection Grants, Meals on Wheels America Collaboration Grants. So let's say that we want to do the Meals on Wheels America Meeting Unmet Need Grants. So I'm going to copy this right here. So I Control C. I'll do this that way people can see what's going on. So let's go over here and let's go back to ChatGPT. What we're going to do here is we're going to see if we can't write up a little grant application from what we're learning here. Let's say I am a senior center director for the city of, and let's go with Los Altos Hills, California. I want to apply for a Meals on Wheels grant. And I'll paste that in there. So it's going to help me understand what I'm trying to do here. So it's going to talk about how we need to create a comprehensive application that demonstrates how our program will meet the nutritional needs of underserved or underserved seniors there. And so here we go. It's going to help us give that here, talk through that whole thing here, kind of give me an outline for what this is supposed to look like. So this is really helpful, right? This is great. We can provide me a quick outline for what I'm supposed to do. So let's look at this. Let's go back to the top here and let's look at the needs assessment and program description, right? And let's say for this example, let's have ChatGPT write this out for us. Let's say, please write this out for me. So here's a draft. And again, you're going to want to make sure that you don't just use AI and just give it whatever it says to your grant application. So you're going to want to feed it information. That way it's tailored to what you want to do. But it can be very helpful to know, okay, here's the direction we can go. Here's the outline, or maybe some information to make sure you're tying what you want to do to the language of the grant holder as well, too, of what their requirements are and matching your language to their language. Kind of similar the same way that we do with, say, a job application, right? So if you're writing a resume or writing a cover letter, it's always helpful to make sure you're matching it to the job posting. And so the same thing we do with grants as well, too, and AI will help us do that. So you can see here, we have a bunch of, here is our executive summary, a needs assessment, current services, program description, and so on and so forth, right? And we just did that. And again, it gives us a really great starting point for how we want to look at grants, or how we want to, what we want to do with this grant application. Gives us a starting point, gives us something we can work with, a plan of action, because applying for grants can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of information that they're asking for. So this is super, super helpful for that. Let's go back over to Perplexity real quick here, because there's other things we can do here as well that I think is important and it's helpful here. So we have other questions here. So let's ask, what are some specific grants available for municipal senior centers? And again, it's going to understand this question. And so sometimes when they're looking at grants, sometimes we just I don't know where to look for grants. I don't know where to even go. There's so many different organizations out there. There's so many different opportunities. Where do I even look for this? So this, again, super helpful. And it's going to create this whole page for me here. And we can do one more thing as well with this. I think it'll be, at least I find it helpful to be able to organize information. So maybe I'm looking at this and there's different, each grant has different grant cycles. So maybe right now the one to apply for is the Meals on Wheels grant, but maybe down the road in a few months, I want to apply for the AmeriCorps Senior Center grant, but I don't want to lose this information. I don't want to forget where I put this information at. So we can click right here and turn this into a page. And this kind of turns it into kind of similar of a Wikipedia kind of thing, but your own kind of custom Wikipedia that you have here. So here we go. It's going to create this information for me. And then now I can save this page and have this information later. I can go back to it. I can go back and say, okay, perfect. Now, what was that AARP Community Challenge grant? Here it is right here. Even continues to have those sources there. You can see the sources there from Cause IQ. And again, just really, really, to me, I find it very helpful to be able to store information and store research, especially when it comes to grants or anything that we're looking at within community services can be extremely, extremely helpful for me. So these are, again, just a couple quick hit ideas on how we can use these different AI tools for, we talked about the library, talked about senior centers. And again, with senior centers, swap out senior center and talk about veterans group, swap out veterans group and talk about kids clubs, right? We're focusing senior centers for the sake of this demonstration, but any type of group or any type of part of your community that you want to look at, or you're providing specialized services to, or wanting to reach those underserved population segments, these are important things to be able to do. So let's go back over here, back to ChatGPT, and let's start talking about housing. In my previous, I guess, life, whatever, I used to be a public housing director. And so I have a real affection and love for those of us who are in the public housing field. It's a necessary and really great opportunity to serve our community and serve our residents. So let's say this, I am a public housing director for the city of Nogales, Arizona. I want to create a maintenance plan for our housing. And let's see what you do here. Okay. So maintenance is a very important thing when it comes to public housing and making sure that our residents are living in quality housing and housing that's not falling apart, housing that is going to be safe for them and their families. So let's create a maintenance schedule for this. This is an important thing here. So it's going to go through and talk about the maintenance schedule. Once it's done, we'll kind of review this real quick here and go a couple steps beyond just this one plan here, or just the schedule itself. So we talked about assessment and inventory, prioritize maintenance tasks, develop a maintenance schedule, allocate budget and resources, staff training responsibilities, resident communication involvement, monitor and adjust the plan, sustainability considerations. So let's add this. Let's add our public housing is funded through U.S. Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Can you make sure this plan follows HUD guidelines? And here we go. Sure. So this can be very important when any public housing arena or any public housing authority. I think the majority of them, if not all of them, are funded through HUD. And so one of the things that I found very helpful and important when first coming to that role was to get in lockstep with HUD and to make sure that we were following their recommendations and their guidelines to make sure that everything was done according to how they wanted things done. So again, it's gonna look at some things about, let's make sure we have compliance with HUD specific guidelines like UPCS, CFP, Residential Opportunities and Self-Sufficiency Program, Energy Performance Contracting. Let's take this right here, the UPCS, and let's say create a matrix so my maintenance inspectors can ensure they are following these standards on every inspection. Again, this might be helpful. Maybe we can put this into kind of a one sheet or something like that they can take along with him, and then just simply check, go through and make sure they're not missing anything. Make sure they're not missing any type of we're not missing anything in the standard, right? Not just limiting this to just we're not limiting this just the knowledge that's in between our two ears, but having something that we can do here. So here's our matrix here, and it says it's interactive here. So we can expand this table. And again, we can look at these different standards, right? We can talk about the address here. So we can go here and we can say, let's add a address field so the inspector knows what unit he has completed or what still needs to be inspected. Just going to analyze it and hopefully we'll go through. And here we go. Here is the address field, right? So let's also do this. Let's also add a field that helps me or helps the inspector say whether it's compliant or not. And if not, I want a field that allows me to put in notes as well as a field for a follow-up. So I gave it a lot of information here, right? And so I did this on purpose as well. So what we did is that we gave it a lot of information here in terms of other fields that we wanted. So we can hopefully see these fields added here. Compliance, yes or no. Yep. Notes. So if it's not compliant, we want to put notes in there, and then a follow-up date. Okay. So when do we, if the site was not compliant, what do we do to address or fix the compliance issue? And then what was that follow-up date? And so these are things we can do to, HUD usually, if you have a unit or a site that doesn't pass inspection, they'll give you a period of time to be able to address that concern, to address that failure of compliance. And so you want to make sure that we're following up and we have documentation here. We can say, yes, HUD, guess what? That site at 365 Main Street for our public housing department was not compliant. The lighting was off, or maybe the ramp was not ADA compliant. We went ahead and we fixed that the next week, and here's our follow-up date. Here's a record of it. Here's it is signed off there. So again, I just find this super, super helpful, at least for my end of things, to know what, to be able to go from, I have an idea of what I want to do. I want to make sure our residents and our public housing facilities are taken care of. I want to make sure that they are living in high quality housing. It's important for everyone, no matter their economic, social status, no matter who they are, they have, we want to make sure that we're taking care of our residents. And so we want to make sure our residents have maintained and great facilities, to now we have an inspection outline, an inspection plan. We made sure that that was done in accordance with HUD guidelines. And on that step right there too, I went fast through it. I would have probably spent a little more time going through to really make sure that it was HUD compliant and not just trusting ChatGPT to give me a response. And then we would say, okay, now we have an inspection matrix. Now we have a tool that we can give our inspectors when they go out to make sure that they are following the HUD guidelines, making sure that we have this maintenance schedule done here. Let's go back to ChatGPT. Another important thing, and it's why I think housing is part of the community services arena, is we want to make sure that we're not just, okay, we do the housing inspections, we make sure they live in high quality housing. We also want community there too, right? We want to make sure that people and residents feel that they're connected with each other, and then also feel that they're connected with the broader community and the broader city as a whole, not isolated, not less than, nothing like that, but simply part of our community as a whole. So for this, let's go back to our discussion. I can open the sidebar right here. I'm going to click on housing maintenance plan. Okay. I'm going to close this out here. And this way it still knows that I'm talking about public housing. And you can go through too. You can go back and look at all different kind of prompts you have in case you're unfamiliar with ChatGPT. I'll show you this real quick here. So you can see all the different information we have from all the various prompts I've had in the past, which is super helpful. So let's do this here. Let's say I want to make sure the residents in our public housing feel connected and valued, and they are given opportunities to connect with neighbors, both inside and outside of the public housing. I love to have a community event hosted at our public housing community center. Help me create or help me with ideas for this. So here we go. Our idea is that we want to have something. Let's have an event at our community center. We can invite the neighborhood and we can invite the city in to come into our into our living room and have a event and show hospitality and have community there, right? We want to host a blast because we want to have pride in who we are and pride in our facilities. And one of the great way to do that is by hosting events. So here's some ideas we could do here. We'll take a look at these different things here. Let's go back to the top and look at these things here. A welcome orientation event, a community potluck and cultural festival, a health and wellness fair, be a family fun day, a community garden project, youth and teen activities, neighborhood cleanup and beautification day, holiday celebrations, resource and job fair, or movie nights. So let's grab this right here. And let's do an outdoor movie night. How can I go about doing this? I'm thinking once per month from May through August. So here we go. It's going to create a plan the event, select some specific times, some movie selections, permissions and licensing, some city permits if we need to, equipment and setup, logistics and safety, refreshments, promotion, event day preparation, and so on and so forth, right? And let's ask it one more thing too, because we want to do here is we want to bring people together. We want to bring people together and make sure that we are connecting the various, sometimes siloed departments of our city to come together to do this. So let's go like this. Let's say, how can I do this with our library? So let's see here. We're going to try this with our library here, and this is where we can do it together. A lot of the movie nights that we have are done with our library staff and things like that. It makes a lot of sense since a lot of libraries have movies there on their shelves for rental, and so we want to do something with our library here. And so we can do a promotion with the library, create some flyers and posters, do some social media here. But now we have to create this event from. I want to do something to bring the community together, right? Want to have an idea. Okay, movie night. That sounds like a phenomenal idea. Let's do a movie night once a month, really low key, doesn't take a lot of resources or bandwidth, do it once a month. And now we're going to layer in the library. We're going to layer in these different community resources and community events or community services that we have for this. So with that being said, we're at about 15 minutes to the top of the hour. Mike, I want to see if there's any questions that you or anyone else in our webinar might have here. I'm gonna stop my share, but hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully it gives you some ideas for how you can use AI for community services and really augment the important work that these departments and these teams do.
Thank you, Micah. Fantastic presentation, just like always. And Chris and I have been chatting about, well, how could we use this for events we're doing at SGR? You know, the Servant Leadership Conference, the TLG conference that's connected with AFI, and I can imagine everybody's imagination has been stimulated about, wow, this could happen. And I just love the you said earlier in the webinar, this is not going to replace community services, but it's going to change it. It's going to change the work that those that are in community services do, and make time to do some of those other more interpersonal kind of things that you want to do that sometimes you don't have time to get to because you're really busy with busy work. So I don't think we have any questions that have come in. Krissa, do you have any questions that have come to you?
No, I do not. It made me laugh a little bit when when Micah was talking about talking to the AI like it's a person, because I accidentally wrote back thank you the other day and got a very pleasant response to that. It made me laugh.
Yeah. Okay. Diane has a question. What's the difference between the Chat GPT site and the Perplexity site? And also, you were using one earlier when you were creating the flyer. Go over that again. Those different, some of those different sites.
I'll
Sure,
post a
sure.
link too.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. So Perplexity really is, I like to think of it as a enhanced Google search engine. So I use Perplexity a lot for research. If I'm researching something that I want to have source information for, and you can see that, right? When we looked at the different examples of the different grants, the Meals on Wheels, for example, I was able to take a look at what the Perplexity engine put out to me, and then I can click on the link to make sure it's a reputable site. I can verify the information that way. So that's what's different about Perplexity is I use it for research. ChatGPT is an AI model that's designed to simply give you a response in the kind of the most simplistic terms. It's designed to give you a response. So I'm using ChatGPT not necessarily for research. So you can see I didn't ask ChatGPT for grant ideas. I asked Perplexity for grant ideas. And then once I found the idea with Perplexity, I moved that over to ChatGPT and had it help me create an outline for a grant application. In terms of the image generation, that was all done under ChatGPT, under the 4.0 model or the 4 model itself too, depends on what model you're using, both of them work. So that was all within ChatGPT, creating the image there. And the same thing then too with the matrix or the spreadsheet matrix we created. Again, that was all within the ChatGPT model.
Mm. It's fantastic. It's just phenomenal where we're at 18 months into this, kind of explosion. So, man, Micah, as always, we want to thank you. We so appreciate you sharing with us each month, and we'll look forward again in July to hearing from you again. And so, really encouraged that there's so many different applications of this. So, for all of you that have been watching, we want to thank you. You can watch the video of this on our YouTube channel later on. And if you are watching this live, I want to encourage you to sign up for next week's webinar, which Randy Mayu will be doing an executive book briefing on the book Cultures of Growth by Mary C. Murphy. And I love this book. I think you're going to enjoy it. Randy always does a great job. And we hope that you can join us for that one. So have a great day, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you all.